Tere hommikust kõigile. Good morning. President Alar Karis is hosting today colleagues from Latvia and from Lithuania. It has been a great, exciting morning, and we start the press conference. First, we deliver short press statements. President Karis will start.
Thank you. Dear journalists, dear friends, Edgars, Gitanas. I would like to start by saying that we very highly value our excellent cooperation with our closest neighbors. It is a true pleasure to greet in Tallinn my colleagues and friends, Edgars Sienkiewicz and Gitanas Nausėda. It is a joy to meet you all here at this newly opened Pelgulinna State Secondary School. School which is a great example of a combination of environmentally oriented architecture and the high ambition to provide the best education possible for the future decision makers. Youth is our future, and we decided not just to state, but to come here and meet the students, to keep them involved in finding solutions to our challenges. We just had a very interesting hour. We offered a very lively debate. I guess if PISA test would measure the debating skills, we could also come on top, or at least close to it. We talked about democracy and how young people can better influence our future policies. Also about the importance of human rights and freedom to choose your destiny. Freedom to choose own destiny is something we wish to every individual and state. Talking about shaping the future, it is a pivotal moment. The decisions we shall make in Brussels this week at the upcoming European Council will be closely observed in every Ukrainian household. And not only in Ukraine, but also in Moldova and in all nations with strong EU aspiration. Together, we are hoping to move forward in fulfilling the European dream. Decisions we shall make will send a global signal. It is our moment to show that the EU is determined and strong, preparing to grow stronger. It is our chance to make a strategic investment into European peace, security and prosperity. We must use this momentum wisely and proceed with the EU's most successful policy, enlargement. There is a strong unity behind this, and I call not to shake this unity with groundless concerns. Yes, indeed, the EU must also change to be ready for enlargement, but we can do both simultaneously. Reform our union and find solutions to every concern while starting the EU accession talk with potential new member states, foremost Ukraine and Moldova. For those who try to drag us to pessimism and demand more analysis, I say, we have been effective. Our policy to help Ukraine in all fields has been successful. Ukraine is a well-functioning independent state, making necessary reforms, controlling a large part of its territory, and determined to take back the rest. Therefore, our successful policy needs to be reinforced and continued. The Baltic states are NATO's first line of defense. That's why we are leading by example and showing NATO what needs to be done in terms of defense readiness, defense investments, and deterrence. Military and politically, we are one and the same region. And the more in sync our national policies and steps are, the stronger we are in our own defense and within NATO. I have assured my colleagues today that Estonia stands ready to help our neighbors in solidarity during all possible crises, be it border security, undersea infrastructure, or an even military threat. Estonia has been leading the Baltic cooperation, and today's meeting marks the end of our many meetings during this year. I would like to express my gratitude to all our colleagues and at different levels to push our cooperation forward in all fields. Very close to my heart has been always the infrastructure connections, Rail Baltica, but also common electricity grid. From here we shall all proceed to a working lunch where I plan to cover the most critical challenges facing our three nations today. But we always look forward to the future, as we are well aware that if we plan things together, we achieve more. It has proven to be so in our defense cooperation, border protection, and other fields. I wish strength and best of luck to Lithuania as the chair of Baltic cooperation in 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Excellency, President Edgars Rinkevich.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, Alar, for hospitality, and I also want to commend the Estonian presidency of the Council of the Baltic Ministers as well as the Baltic Assembly. I think that you have done extremely good job moving some of the priorities that we all have forward. And indeed, we see that we are moving with the common energy policy. The next year is going to be critical when it comes to the all works that are needed to be done to disconnect from the BREL, from the Russian electricity network, and to connect in the beginning of 2025 to the European grid. We also see that we need to push and we need to work so that the Baltic network becomes a success story, not only to connect our countries with Europe, but also to ensure military mobility in those also times of geopolitical uncertainty. We discussed, and we are going to discuss over the lunch, as President just said, what we can do further politically, militarily, and also from the economic point of view to support Ukraine. This is going to be a critical phase for Ukraine as well as for all of us when it comes to decisions that are going to be taken in Washington vis-à-vis the military aid, in Brussels vis-à-vis financial aid, and of course also the decision that I very much hope is going to be taken to open accession talks with Ukraine and Moldova in the coming European Council. I think that we are all of the same opinion that the West, the European Union, NATO, like-minded nations should do more. Even if there is some kind of uncertainty, there are some voices now saying that we should rethink our strategy. I do believe that our strategy is sound and we must continue it, support for Ukraine as much as we can, and I think that the Baltic states, like-minded nations in Europe, will continue doing that also in the future. Finally, of course, the regional security is of paramount importance to all of us. I'm very pleased to see that those decisions taken by heads of state and government of NATO in Vilnius and also in Madrid are being implemented. We still have a lot of homeworks. We are ready to do that. I think that we see that our defense budgets are increasing steadily. Latvian Parliament just voted the 2024 budget last Saturday, outlining also 2.4% of GDP for defense. The goal is to reach 3% spending in 2027. But what is important is, of course, that we continue spending those resources in a coordinated way, strengthening our air defense capabilities, our coast defense capabilities, and also ability to tackle both hybrid and also conventional military threats. Also, I want to thank both Lithuania and Estonia for the assistance that countries rendered to us during the height of the border crisis with Belarus. I think that this is the true solidarity of our good Baltic brothers and sisters. But let's not make a mistake. We have to be vigilant also when it comes to the border situation on Latvian Russian, on Latvian Belarusian, but like also Estonian Russian and also Lithuanian Belarusian, Lithuanian Russian border. And I think that also our respective agencies will have to continue coordinating and working together. And finally, let me also wish successful presidency to Lithuania next year. I think that this is very symbolic that next year we are also celebrating the 35th anniversary since the Baltic Way and also the 30th anniversary since the establishment of the Baltic Council of Ministers. Apart from addressing all the challenges and problems, let's also not forget about our common great past and also history and make sure that there is a not only problem-solving mood but also some optimistic mood as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Excellency, President Gitanas Nausėda.
Good morning, dear President Karis and President Rinkevičius. I'm glad to be here in Tallinn together with the Baltic family. Thank you, Alar, for your hospitality. The Baltic unity and friendship have always been our strength that has helped to overcome the most difficult challenges. In recent years, the geopolitical and security situation in our region has become more complex. It is crucial for us to continue strengthening deterrence and defense of the Baltic region and the entire eastern flank of NATO. Decisions of the NATO summit in Vilnius last July is a substantial step forward in boosting regional security. We must work with our NATO allies to make sure these decisions are efficiently implemented. Our priorities: first of all, ensuring executability of defense plans, Baltic air defense, increased presence of the allies in the region. There is no better defense than credible deterrence. Ladies and gentlemen, Baltic cooperation on major infrastructure projects remains of the utmost importance. First, on synchronization of electricity grids with continental Europe. Independence of the Baltic states' electricity grid from Russia will guarantee increased security and eliminate potential risks. We have agreed on ambitious goal of finalizing synchronization in 2025, 1 year earlier than planned. Second, on transport connectivity. Our efforts to help Ukraine transport agriculture products pointed to the insufficiency of connectivity capacity in the Baltic states. Implementation of the Rail Baltica project must be speeded up. I also look forward to the launching of the renewed Vilnius-Riga passenger train service in a few weeks. I also welcome plans of launching Tartu-Riga in 2024. Also, I would like to say a few words on European agenda as well. In 3 days at the European Council, we will be making crucial decisions regarding the European future of Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. It is important to consolidate the political will of all EU member states to start EU accession talks with Ukraine and Moldova and provide Georgia with EU candidate status. It is a geopolitical decision that will define the future of Europe. We have neither the right nor luxury to miss the momentum. The EU enlargement is a path towards a more secure, more stable, and more prosperous Europe. Dear President Karis, dear Alar, thank you for hosting us today in Tallinn, wintry Tallinn, nice Tallinn. I look forward to hosting the annual Baltic Family meeting in Vilnius next year. Once again, thank you, dear friends. I am looking forward to have even more informal and formal discussion during the launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've got questions today from Estonia and Latvia, from Lithuania and Estonia. And please introduce yourself and please specify to whom is your question. Astrid Kanner.
Estonian Public Broadcasting, and I have a question to all of you. In your opinion, if Russia wins the war in Ukraine, will Baltic states be the next to be attacked by Russia?
Well, I can start answering. I mean, it's a very hypothetical question, of course, first of all. And second, we shouldn't assume that Russia is going to win this war, first of all. But, of course, if it would happen, we are all in danger. It's not only Baltic states, it's the whole Europe, it's the whole Western world. This is something we should remind to our partners, that this is not a question of bordering countries, but it's a question of the whole Western world.
I would like to share this view because I think it's very important to understand that, first of all, I still believe by 100% that the victory will be in the battlefields of Ukraine will be Ukrainians' victory. But we should understand that for this regime, Kremlin's regime, there is no final destination or final targets. This regime has big number of targets, and among them could be the Baltic states, other countries of Eastern Europe, and even Central Europe too. So this is the reason why we have to deal with very dangerous regime, and we have to stay united in order to support Ukraine until the end and to win this war. And I hope that it will be the case.
Well, I think that our point of view is very, very similar. I would just add a couple of points. First of all, I think that it may be so that even if Russia is not winning this war, but it thinks that it has won. And there is a bit sometimes difference between the actual facts and perceptions. And I think that at this point, even with all the difficulty that we see in Ukraine at this point, Russia is not winning. Russia has been stalled. Russia is having a lot of challenges, but let's not make mistake. Russia is also learning from previous mistakes, mobilizing its economy, mobilizing its resources, and also having this long-term strategy that they will continue fighting as long as it takes, and they are hoping that we all get tired, that the public opinion in many Western countries is going to change. So that's one thing that we should take into account. This is long-term war. This is unfortunately a war that is not going to end in a month or in a even year. And that is something that I am saying to all my colleagues from different NATO and EU countries, that we need to be prepared. And I have the feeling that in many countries this realization is slowly starting to sink in. The problem is that unfortunately between the realization of the problem and actually solving it in a democratic society, it takes time. So mobilizing more resources, mobilizing defense industry takes time, but I do hope that we are going to be successful here. Second, yes, we still need to continue supporting Ukraine, as I said. Now, if Russia is going to attack any of the Baltic states or NATO states in the eastern flank, I think it depends on three things. First, if they see that we are ready to fight and we don't take any chances, that we continue improving our defense capabilities or ability to resist any of challenges, that would be something they are going to think. And here I think that all three Baltic states are making great efforts. Second, if they see that NATO, and particularly NATO, but not only NATO, is not united. And I think that here we must invest a lot of our energy and effort to keep this unity, to keep this sense of purpose for the alliance, and also to work with many skeptics. And the third, yes, indeed, I do believe that A lot currently depends on the situation in Ukraine, but I also do believe that while we should be cautious and we should take all the precaution and be very active mobilizing support for Ukraine and mobilizing ourselves, we should also not get into the kind of panic mode that sometimes you can somehow sense in a bit. And if there is a competition between experts, one saying 1 year, another saying 10 years till Russia is ready to attack NATO, let's face it, we have to use each and every day that is on our disposal so that there is never be 1 or 10 or 100 years. And that's very much in our own hands, not in somebody else's hands.
Now a question from Lithuania.
Hello, Greta Zlonaitė, Baltic News Service. My question is to all of you. How do you expect to convince Hungary and Slovakia if they oppose financial assistance to Ukraine and also negotiations on EU membership? What arguments do you think can convince these countries to change their minds? Thank you.
We will use all the instruments to convince Hungary to change its mind. But this is very important to understand that this is to the benefit of Hungary to see Ukraine and other countries of Eastern Partnership approaching European Union. And I hope that we will not lose this historical possibility to invite Ukraine and Moldova to proceed to start negotiation talks with the European Union and to grant the candidate status to Georgia. Yes, the discussions are not easy. Yes, many actors, many politicians, many leaders are involved in this kind of discussions with skeptical countries. But Hungary should understand that we are in such a way. Hungary is damaging the principle of anonymity, because if we will not get the positive answer, positive response, and positive conclusion, there will be more and more voices threatening and challenging the principle of anonymity. And this is not to the benefit of smaller sized countries and to the benefit of Hungary itself. This should be understood too. And I hope very much that Ukraine will receive this positive signal, because right now in this critical stage of the war, it is very important to send positive signal to this suffering nation, suffering brave nation of Ukrainians. And we are taking this responsibility.
If I may, I could just add a small comment here. It is a very important time, and important because there's going to be elections of a Russian president. And it's important to carry this message to Russia that Europe is united and Ukraine belongs to Europe. So that's why it's important to convince Hungarians and maybe some others that Ukraine belongs to Europe. Thank you.
Actually, there are two arguments, one emotional, another rational. The emotional argument that sometimes actually also needs to be employed is, you can feed a crocodile with whatever you like, and at one point when you are running out of the food, the crocodile comes and eats you. And that's one part of the history we should all remember. Hungary in 1956 and Czechoslovakia at that time, 1968. And here I very much agree with my colleagues who are actually noting that if there is this kind of worst case scenario of all the bad scenarios that we have, that Central Europe is as threatened as Eastern Europe, because I do believe that if you study very carefully the rhetoric from not only the Russian officials but also from Russian propaganda, they have plans even greater than restoration of the Russian Empire. I think those are actually much, much wider. So from that point of view, yes, I do understand a lot of issues that some of EU member states are raising. Yes, I do agree that those are to be addressed. But look, for instance, the minorities issues that have been noted by some of EU member states have been just addressed by the Ukrainian parliament passing the legislation that is addressing some of those concerns. So those things that they are looking as major issues, they need to be addressed. We simply cannot brush them away. We can work and find solutions. And in a more rational way, I do think that what President Nausėda just said, this decision-making process where we are all a bit skeptical about abolishment of some procedures, unanimous decision-making principle in some of the key foreign and security policy matters of the European Union, that if you are ruining all the time this kind of principle on many issues, that at one point it is very difficult to defend some of the key decision-making principles in the EU. So finding a compromise is not always an easy task. Yes, it may take longer than expected. Yes, we can actually run into some disappointments and breaking news throughout this week, but I do hope that at the end of the day, this kind of process and the common wisdom will prevail, and all the necessary decisions are going to be taken in Brussels, in Washington, in many other capitals where we are looking for some decisions at this point.
There will be another question from Estonia TV3, please.
Good morning, everybody. Karl-Johannes Koi from TV3 News. Question to all of you. Last week, International Olympic Committee confirmed that Russian and Belarusian athletes can compete in the Olympics. Should Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia boycott Paris 2024? Or on the other hand, is it unfair when it comes to our athletes who have prepared for years for this occasion and now they can go because of Russia and Belarus?
First of all, it's very unfortunate to hear this decision. As a citizen and person who likes sports. But we are talking about, at this very moment, about 10 or so sportsmen, and they are not going to fight under the Russian flag at this very moment. So let's see how this procedure is going, because there are also subcommittees who are not happy with this decision, and let's wait. But it's a very unfortunate decision. And of course, sportsmen, they have prepared for so many years to take part of this Olympic, and they are definitely keen to go to Paris. So let's see how these things develop, and then we make probably up our decision on state level. Thank you.
Well, it's a very disappointing decision, and I still have hope that it could be revised and it could be corrected. We already see the reactions coming from different kind of federations, for example, light athletes. And I think that Olympic principles have nothing to do with terror, murder, and destruction. So it's highly discouraging to see such decisions right now, as I mentioned, in the critical stage of the war in Ukraine. We have to stay united, and it is applicable not only for us, but it's applicable for the Olympic Committee and Olympic movement too.
Well, I think that we all agree that this is the wrong decision, and that unfortunately some of the key principles of the Olympic movement have been grossly damaged by such kind of decision. But here, just a couple of points. First of all, I do believe that we still have time to work together, probably also to influence some of the decisions that have been already made by the Olympic Committee. And the more friends and allies in this matter we get and we work, there is still the possibility for change. Second, yes, indeed, we see that there are some criteria made who is going to be excluded, like those athletes who are affiliated with the military or paramilitary organizations and so forth. But let's also not forget that the Olympic Games are happening in France, Paris. There happens to be also EU member state, and we do have some sanctions in place as well. So I think that we also need to take a look on those athletes who are, for instance, affiliated with companies and entities that have been sanctioned by the European Union or by like-minded nations. So I do believe that at this point there is still a possibility to continue fighting for the reversal or substantial change of this decision. I do believe that it's going to be a very difficult decision. In my mind, if nothing changes, it would be very difficult to see Ukrainian or Latvian athletes to compete there. But this is, of course, also the decision that needs to be taken by the governments and the sport community in each and every country. And of course, it needs to be well coordinated and well thought through with like-minded nations, be it Ukraine, be it the Baltic nations, be it other European nations that are not very happy with this decision. But I think that from the outset, this is a wrong decision. We will continue working on this, I believe, also when it comes to Baltic governments, when it comes to the Olympic committees of the Baltic states. We'll be in close touch, I believe, also with our Ukrainian friends. And I think that the response will be made in due time, in due course. But remembering some of history, I would say that we are still not in a phase where we should say that everything has been completely decided and it's not reversible or changeable.
Do we have no questions from Lithuanian side? No. All right. I guess this concludes press conference. Thank you for your excellent questions, excellent answers. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
Answers are always excellent.